Wake up, you ain't heard the news. YouTube Live, thank you for joining me. The Fast Break Sports Hour in full effect. About to break down what happened this Sunday, Week 2 NFL action. And man, a lot of things happened. Like sports always does, brings you some surprising moments, some things that were unexpected, and some of the things that you still were like, okay, same old story with that team or whatnot. But again, with that being said, thank you for joining me here live on the Fast Break Sports Hour. And real quick, man, let's get right to it. Let's get with the breaking news. We're going to get to Sunday's action week 2 style, but let's get to the breaking news that just happened about an hour ago where the Cleveland Browns, if you guys missed it over the weekend, had decided, you know what, we're going to part our ways with Josh Gordon, their elite receiver who hardly has gotten to see the field in the last 3 or 4 years. And something came up over the weekend where he pulled a hamstring, and it wasn't due to any team specific activities. And there has to be something else behind the scenes that happened, but both have decided to part ways. It's a mutual agreement, and at first it looked like they were just going to release the receiver to see who would claim him off of waivers. But once that news came out, some teams were obviously interested because the risk and the reward factor is higher on the reward because I mean with a lot of these teams that need receivers and easily you can go off the top of the list with the Dallas Cowboys, the New England Patriots, Arizona Cardinals, Washington Redskins, the Philadelphia Eagles, and so on. And you knew that there was going to be some sort of market for Josh Gordon. And when Josh Gordon knew he was going to be traded or that the Cleveland Browns were looking for a trade, his requests were either the Dallas Cowboys or the San Francisco 49ers. Also, being the Cleveland Browns in AFC, they prefer to trade him to an NFC team. But I guess the New England Patriots offer was the best one they received, and they say, what the heck? Let's get the 5th round pick. Let's ship Josh Gordon over to the Patriots. Now you have to understand too, at the Cleveland Browns, though they wanted to send him to the NFC, I don't think it's a big deal as long as you don't trade him inside your division because the Cleveland Browns are not a playoff team. So you don't have to worry about having to play against Josh Gordon here anytime soon. They're not a playoff team this year. They won't be a playoff team next year. Maybe the year after that, you can start thinking about playoffs for the Cleveland Browns. But Josh Gordon traded today, about an hour ago, to the New England Patriots for a 5th. Now there is a condition. If Josh Gordon is not active for at least 10 of these games, then the Cleveland Browns will then have to send back their 6th to New England. So though New England can lose a 5th for Josh Gordon, let's say Josh Gordon is active for 9 games, then New England still gets to keep Josh Gordon and whatever they decide to do with him contract wise in the future, and also get a 6th round pick back. So again, that's the risk of the for the reward. Not much risk having to give up a 5th round pick for a guy that is now the best receiver on your team. Receiver, yes. Overall, I'm not saying that he's provided more stats, more impact than Rob Gronkowski. When you just look at receiver, you look at a pass catcher, he is now the best pass catcher on that team, the most explosive pass catcher on that team, and the big playmaker on that team. He's the guy now. So that also helps out Rob Gronkowski if Josh Gordon is able to get going with the Patriots with no issues, no snags. That also going to help out Rob Gronkowski. And then you're going to look at Julian Edelman coming back in a couple weeks. Patriots, man, they always find a way to say, you know what? We took it on the chin yesterday to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who their defense continues to be incredible. And the Patriots always, you know, they're known for losing the game real early on in somewhat beat down fashion. The 31-20 score that the Jacksonville Jaguars showed domination defensively. And the 31-20 is basically, that's what it looked like, man. The Jaguars were in control for all the game. And the Patriots were playing catch up the rest of the game. So you're looking at Josh Gordon now with the Patriots, going to provide that firepower. Is he going to be able to provide what Randy Moss provided years back when they were just, man, that explosive offense, breaking records? I wouldn't doubt that, but we'll see how it goes. We'll see when Josh Gordon is available to play for the New England Patriots and see how that story unfolds. Again, Josh Gordon, a New England Patriot, and man, an evil empire strikes again. They say we're not gonna take this beat down from the Jacksonville Jaguars and not make any moves. We want to improve, and we know where we need improvement. We're improving at Josh Gordon. You kind of wonder why these other teams couldn't throw up like a fourth round pick or something to get Josh Gordon. Teams that can really use a receiver to get them into playoff contention or just over the top. But there you have it, man. Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, full force. They're gonna be reckoned with again. And for a Denver Bronco fan, as I am, it sucks. it's not ideal. But you know what, man? Yeah, as a Denver Bronco fan or any fan in the AFC, you want to take that team down. You want to take them down full force and say, you know what, we didn't take them down because they didn't have any receivers. They were missing this, that. So let them have Josh Gordon, man. Let's go. Let's go. And week 2, man, it provided firepower, provided a lot of action. Action brought to you by Fitzpatrick. Man, Fitzmagic, whatever you want to call him, the dude is crazy. Crazy good the first 2 weeks. Him and Patrick Mahomes, best 2 quarterbacks after 2 weeks of NFL football. That's incredible. And Patrick Mahomes, I knew the kid was special, but this early, this fast, man, you have to wonder if the defenses are going to be able to catch up. What's up, my man? Thank you for joining the Fast Break Sports Hour, the Mile High Podcast, man. Great show. Go check out the channel. But, man, Patrick Mahomes, Ryan Fitzpatrick, right now, AFC, NFC, those are your top 2 quarterbacks after 2 weeks. And Fitzpatrick, here's the big thing with that, is Jameis Winston has to sit one more game this week. And just listening around, all these other news stations or just the sports talk that I'll be listening to, the debate is, do they go to Jameis Winston, who's their franchise quarterback? And there goes my phone. Oh, my goodness. Chair shot. Not going to happen. You do not go back to Jameis Winston if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, unless Ryan Fitzpatrick next week throws 4 or 5 picks and just looks horrendous and they lose. Then you can start talking about it. But with the 2 games that he's put up with those receivers, Deshaun Jackson looks like he's just, man, he came back from wherever he was chilling because the dude's still playing like he's 25 years old, still burning the secondary, the DBs, and then Mike Evans. Obviously, you know what you have with him. He's just putting up 4 touchdowns after 4 touchdowns. And can he continue this aerial onslaught that he's throwing on these defenses? And not against any slouches. Come on now, let's be real. The Saints, incredible secondary last year. The Philadelphia Eagles, incredible defense. And he's still putting up these numbers. I think he's just like, you know what? I have nothing to lose. I'm in my 10th season. I'm going to sling it. And the great part is the coach, Dirk Cutter, is letting him sling it, giving him the option to say, you know what, go out there, run the offense, do your thing. We know you're a smart guy. We know you can handle the offense. Now let your talents just shine. And that's what he's doing. So when you start talking about Jameis Winston, you start saying, well, you got to bring him back in because that's what they drafted him, number 1. They drafted him to be the franchise quarterback. No. Okay. He's shown ups and downs. He has great games. He has bad games. He has average games, kind of like a young quarterback would, which is all fine and dandy. But the attitude, man, that's just you don't want that kind of attitude coming from the leader of your team. Immature attitude, still hasn't really gotten it. He's still acting like he's 20 years old, and just you don't want the offseason to be filled with negative news, and it coming from your star quarterback, the leader of your team. So if I'm the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I ride this Fitzpatrick train, man, until the wheels fall off. Jameis Winston's going to be there. If me personally, my opinion is the Buccaneers need to move on from Jameis Winston. If you can find a trade partner this year to a team that's probably thinking they're a quarterback away, do that. Jameis Winston needs a change of scenery. That's the only way to me personally, he needs to get out of his home state to kind of humble himself and say, you know what, it's time for me to relearn how to be a human being, how to be an adult, how to lead a team. So to me, it's not even a question. Again, unless Fitzpatrick throws 4 or 5 interceptions, he pulls a Nathan Peterman, then that's the only way you have that discussion. But I don't see that happening. Anyone that knows Ryan Fitzpatrick knows that he's not going to have one of those games. He might have an average game. And to those that feel that we've seen this story before, where he'll have 2 or 3 or 4 good games. I mean, he's had 2 great games, but 3 or 4 of these good games, and then he goes back to being the old Fitzpatrick. We haven't seen this one. I've never seen this Ryan Fitzpatrick at any moment. You don't know. Sometimes it takes time for a quarterback to get it, to just figure out, you know what, I just got to go out there and play. I know everything there is to know about offenses and how these defenses work. He has the receivers, so sometimes you have to give him the benefit of the doubt of just being the prolonged time that he's been in the NFL and give him that and say, you know what, it's his 10th season. Maybe it finally clicked for him to do what he was always meant to do, but now he's going to get a shot. And if you're the Buccaneers, if you're Dirk Cutter, you have to instill that and say, you know what, you're the quarterback. We're not even going to talk about it. We're not going to touch upon the subject. Jameis Winston, when he comes back, we'll handle that. But right now, it's just you're the starting quarterback. We're not going to worry about Jameis Winston. And that would be the smart thing if the Buccaneers want to continue this ride. So, Tampa Bay, stay smart, man. Stay off the Jameis Winston. Keep with the Fitz magic. Again, they defeated the Philadelphia Eagles 27-21, and that was my upset special of the week. I got that down and handy. Man, I'm telling y'all, man, I'm getting these games right, man. I did better this week than I did last week. But Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Ryan Fitzpatrick, full force going into week 3. The last week, Jameis Winston has to sit out due to the suspension. We'll see what happens from there. But incredible play. Patrick Mahomes, man, like nothing. First quarter, like nothing. 7 points, 14 points, 21 points, 21-0, Kansas City Chiefs over the Pittsburgh Steelers early on in the game, 3 touchdown passes, and I'm like, what the heck is going on here? Patrick Mahomes is just incredible. You think that it's probably a one-game thing, and don't get me wrong, I expect Patrick Mahomes to be a great quarterback in this league, especially with Andy Reid. And after last week, I'm like, okay, maybe it's just week 1. And then I'm just like, I'm seeing him like, holy moly. Like, he's doing what Deshaun Watson did last year. And we'll get to Deshaun Watson here in a little bit. But he's doing what Deshaun Watson did last year. The same thing. Coming out like nothing, man. Just throwing these, rifling the ball inside to these speedy receivers. And he's got weapons. And he's utilizing all of his weapons. Andy Reid knows what he's doing when it comes to calling plays, especially early on in the season. I mentioned it last week. I'm not going to make any excuses. Patrick Mahomes has been incredible. I'm not going to say because it's early on or this, that, and the other. You play what you play. You go against who you go against. You put up what you put up, and that's what you are. And that's what he is. He's a guy that's thrown 10 touchdowns in the first 2 games of the season. In his first 2 starts, when it comes to him being the full-time quarterback, he now holds that record for most touchdowns in the first 2 weeks in the season at 10. That's no slouch, man. Some of these quarterbacks don't even throw for 10 touchdowns in their whole career, man. And this dude already did it in the first 2 games as a full-time starter, week 1, week 2. Now the countdown continues. At what point does he have that hiccup? Next week they go against Jimmy G and the 49ers at home. I don't see it stopping because the 49ers, they're going to be in shootouts. The 49ers aren't going to stop you. They're going to try to keep up with you. So that's going to continue. And then for him to do it in Pittsburgh, that's a tough place to play. I don't care what time of year it is. And both of these defense, when you talk about Kansas City and the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're iffy. And that's one thing I said during the preseason. I was talking about how the Kansas City Chiefs defenses, they're going to give up, points. in the high 20s, low 30s. That's what they're going to do. But this offense is making it so that doesn't matter. Because when you can put up 38, 42, 45 points, giving up 28 is nothing. And that's what they're going to have to continue to do. So that's what I'm going to wait to see on Patrick Mahomes. He's arrived. Who's going to adjust to Patrick Mahomes' play? Who's going to catch up to Andy Reid's offense? Again, Andy Reid's offense takes off in the month of September. As we start getting to October, November, it starts to catch up with him a little bit. And then we all see what happens in the playoffs, one and dones. And it's not just Andy Reid, it's just the Kansas City Chiefs as a whole. That's just something that they carry. They can't win a playoff game at home. They can't win a playoff game, period. But remains to be seen what's going to happen with this team. They're obviously the most explosive team in football right now on the offensive side. You know, if they can just fix the defense a little bit, man, that's just the recipe for they'd be the favorite. But it's still they're still giving up 24, 28, 35 points. So that's going to be something that, you know, is that going to linger? What's going to be what's more probable trend to happen for the Kansas City Chiefs? Is it Patrick Mahomes continuing to throw 4 or 5 touchdowns a game and the Chiefs putting up 40, or them giving up 28 to 35 points? Is that more of a trend? That's a tricky one, because I don't care who you are. You know, if you're Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, ask them how hard it is to continue to put up 38 points. You know, they both done it once each, where they were like, you know, putting up over 35 points a game. And he's talking about the arguably the 2 greatest quarterbacks of all time, especially in the last 20 years. They're definitely the 2 best quarterbacks of the last 20 years. Patrick Mahomes, is he going to be able to continue that? And at what point, if you're Andy Reid, do you say, you know what? He's going to give us this, but at the same time, let's run the ball a little bit more. Let's help the defense out. We know we can score touchdowns whenever we want, but let's get the run going. Let's help the defense a little bit. Let's because them coming down and scoring in 4 plays is not helping the defense. That's like going 3 and out. You know, it's great you're putting up 7, but at the same time, you're gonna put up points. You're gonna give up points, especially with that defense. It's not they're at best an average defense. You're gonna wake up and you're gonna score 20 against the Chiefs. That's just what's gonna happen. That's gonna be a weekly thing. Now, whether they give up 28 or 35 remains to be seen. That's the bigger question. But, you know, give it up to Patrick Mahomes. He's doing everything that, and then some, than what was expected. And I believe he's going to be a great quarterback when it's all said and done. I'm still waiting for the hiccup. Will it happen? Who knows? But Chiefs, man, it was 42-37 over the Steelers. But you just looking at the game, it looked like the Steelers never had a chance. It's like the Chiefs just got bored. They're like, hey, 21-0, come on, catch up. 21-21, okay, let's put up another 14 on them, 35-21, and it's like, you know, that's what the Chiefs are doing. They're just playing games with their opposition. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think they abandoned the run yesterday after, you know, James Conner had over 130 yards rushing last week, over 25 carries. And then this time they didn't even try. He didn't even get close to 18 carries. And they were like, let's just get in this shootout. Now, you played into Kansas City Chiefs' hands right there when you decided to go into shootout mode. You know, they came back, tied at 21-21. Pittsburgh was like, you know what, we're here. It's a new ball game. But, man, even at 21-21, you just knew the Chiefs were just going to explode again. And when it was 21-21, that was without Tyreek Hill having done anything at that point. And then for Tyreek Hill to put up the numbers that he did at the end, when not putting up nothing in the first quarter and a half, that's incredible. Last week, it was all Tyreek Hill. This week, it was Kelsey. It was Watkins. It was Hunt. And then it was Tyreek Hill. And they all got theirs. So, man, Pittsburgh, another team that their defense is average at best. Another team that you're going to wake up and you should be able to put up 20 points just by showing up. So, these teams, man, offensive explosion, but defense is going. You can easily say that the top teams in the NFC are better equipped defensively than if you consider the Chiefs, the Pittsburgh Steelers, atop the AFC as elites. They don't have any defense. That's just a proven fact. Now, I talked about James Conner. When does Le'Veon Bell get back? Le'Veon Bell makes a difference. Le'Veon Bell's not going to have 130 yards one week and then provide 30 yards the next. Now, he didn't get enough carries, speaking of James Conner, but they wouldn't do that to Le'Veon Bell. They're going to say, you know what, we have Le'Veon Bell. Everything goes through Le'Veon Bell. We know we got Antonio Brown. We know we got Juju. Speaking of Antonio Brown, I'm done with Le'Veon Bell. It remains to be seen when he's going to come back, if he's going to come back. Me personally, I believe it's going to be somewhere after week 3, after 3 weeks are in the books, and he's going to say, you know what, I'm going to get into the stretch run. You can use me all you want for 13 weeks of football, because he knows that's what's going to happen. You talking about a guy that's going to get at least 25 touches a game, because this is his last year in Pittsburgh, so they're going to use him up. So I think that's why he's holding back. It has nothing to do with the money at this point. He's still losing checks. He's already lost $1.6 million for missing the first 2 weeks. So I think he'll miss one more week, and then sometime next week he'll come back and then be full force for the last 13 weeks. But again, that's another thing we got to keep an eye on. But Antonio Brown, again, obviously he's the number 1 receiver on the team, but he was looking kind of antsy there on the sideline. Kind of the diva came out in him again, and it happens once or twice a year with this guy. Antonio Brown, it seems to be the darling of the NFL, where it's, the personality, the charisma, the stature that he has and how he plays. It's also part of it. He's not this big Megatron type football player. 5'11", not even 200 pounds, and he's able to, arguably the best receiver in the game. He's not having this Juju being the best receiver on the team, because that's what he was yesterday. Juju was the best receiver. Now, whether it's targets or whatnot, Antonio Brown still had 8 receptions, although he only had 64 yards. So maybe that's part of it. Maybe the play calling is not what he's used to or happy with. Obviously, Antonio Brown's a guy that, he's a guy that he wakes up and when he shows up, that's 8 receptions. So is he wanting to get to that 10, 11, 12 reception range? He sees what all these other receivers are doing. He wants to be a part of that. And then at the same time, you have to wonder, does he care more about his numbers than the actual W? That's another thing. But you don't want to see that, not early on, and you don't want things to unravel for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because they haven't played good football the first 2 weeks. You tie with the Cleveland Browns, and the Cleveland Browns are another story. And then you come into week 2 and you get demolished by the Chiefs defensively, whatever you want to call it. Your offense puts up 37 points. All right, did your job, but still not able to run the kind of offense they want to run, where they want to establish the run. Still, throw for 300 yards, but be able to run the ball, 30, 35 times and run that clock and dominate games, because, again, their defense isn't all there. Antonio Brown needs to take a step back and say, you know what? We're going to do what we do until Le'Veon Bell gets back. And I just got to do my best to make sure this train continues to go in the right direction. And with them not being able to play up to par at this point, again, they haven't won a game this year. That's obviously gonna bring some frustration when you talk about Antonio Brown, because, again, is it the numbers, or does he want to win? We don't know what it is. It looks like the selfish part when he's on the sideline, trying to get into the offense coordinator's ear, just pacing back and forth, doing this whole TO thing. But, in a slightly more quiet fashion, but still you can see it. So Antonio Brown, you have to wonder if this is going to boil over, or if this is just one thing, it's out the way. And then he got into like a Twitter war, I believe it was today, where he was, there was someone posted on Twitter and they added at Antonio Brown, obviously at him. And they had said that Antonio Brown needs to, and I'm paraphrasing, he needs to just accept what he's going through now, and he needs to understand that without the Pittsburgh Steelers drafting him and them having Big Ben, Antonio Brown would not be Antonio Brown. He took exception to that, and he said, you know what, trade me and then see if I don't do the same thing somewhere else. Obviously he's responding. First of all, don't respond. Who cares? It doesn't matter who's saying this. Unless it's your coach saying this, unless it's one of your teammates, then you don't no reason to respond. So that's one thing. Second thing, to say, okay, trade me, now you're disrespecting your team. Because now you're just saying, you know what? It doesn't matter where I play, I'm going to do the same thing. It's cool to have that kind of belief in yourself. And I'm pretty sure he could do that somewhere else with a competent quarterback, But just keep quiet, man. And just, it's week 2. It's not the end of the world. A lot of these teams are 0-2. It's not the end of the world, depending on how you got to 0-2. And we're going to get to that. But Pittsburgh Steelers, Antonio Brown need to figure this out. Wait and see when Le'Veon Bell gets back. But biggest issue is going to be their defense, just like the Kansas City Chiefs. That's why we saw that 42-37 game. Vikings-Packers, man, 2 weeks, 2 ties. Last week it was the Pittsburgh Steelers, Cleveland Browns tying. This week it's the Vikings and Packers tying. Now there was a questionable play that was flagged. It was the Packers were up 29-21, and it was a play where Kirk Cousins threw an interception. It was flagged on Clay Matthews for a late hit, or kind of like driving the quarterback into the ground. I saw the replay a couple times, and I'm like, that's kind of tough to call it. The rule is the rule, but that didn't look as bad as what possibly. I don't know. It's just, that's one of those rules where it's like you just don't know. So it gave Minnesota the ball back. They were able to drive down, get that touchdown, get the 2-point conversion, send it to overtime, and kickers they've just sucked this year. I don't know what it is, but kickers cannot make field goals, man. And you've already seen the Vikings kicker. He got released today. Browns kicker, Zane Gonzalez, got released today, and they've been replaced. And rightfully so. You miss these chip shot game-winning field goals. You don't want to tie a game. We've had 2 weeks of tie games because kickers cannot make field goals. And I think there's a bigger issue here. It's not so much, the field goals it's a big deal. But the bigger issue is the moving the overtime from 15 to 10 minutes. That it's a thing where it's like, well, we got to speed up the game. For what? We all want to watch football. We want to watch another 15-minute quarter. And I believe that you're going to see a lot more ties because of the 10-minute overtime rule. Nobody wants to see the tie. Not the fans, not the players. It's just like, okay, we played, but we didn't. It's like, it's still 0-0. And it's understandable to say you might have 1 tie every year, 2 at the worst, but to have 2 of the first 2 weeks, that's too much personally. I think, first of all, them moving to 10 minutes, you have to figure out a way to end these games with a decision made. However that is, or maybe just wipe out the time and just say each team is going to have at the max 2 possessions, and whatever happens, the same rules apply. I mean, if the first team goes down, scores a touchdown, game over. But if the first team comes down, makes field goal, team comes back, makes field goal, then each team has 1 possession left to do what they do. So now you're having to go for it on 4th down, or to say, you know what, we're going to accept the tie. We don't have any more possessions. We're going to kick it. That's one option. This is just my thing that I just try to spitball and throw against the wall. Another thing is, do your 10-minute thing, and if it's still tied, the team that ended up with the less yardage, have them put their field goal kicker out, kind of like penalty kicks, and say, you know what, we're going to kick a field goal from 40 yards out. So they're going to try a 40-yard field goal, and the team with the less yards gets the first option. Go out there, kick a 40-yard field goal. They make it. The team now gets to respond, and all they have to do is kick the 41-yard field goal and game over. It's kind of crazy, but it's better than the tie. And if both teams miss the field goal, then shit. Sorry for my language, but this is getting upsetting. This is there's a lot of things that I'm not liking about the first 2 weeks of football, whether it's the helmet rule or just not being able to hit. Now you're seeing these teams putting up crazy points, crazy pass yards, and all that. And then these ties, if I end up seeing another tie week 3, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose it, man. I don't want to see another tie. You don't gain nothing from it. It's just a tie. It doesn't do anything. So figure out a way to either go back to the 15 minutes or kill the clock and say, man, first team to score wins. And that's it. Just keep going. One team's going to fall over and say, you know what, score a touchdown. It's over. Like, it is what it is. That's what we want to see. That's what we're accustomed to. We don't want to see ties because you have a 10-minute quarter. We don't want to shorten this. It's not the NBA where you go from 12 minutes to 5 minutes. They just keep going to overtime, overtime, overtime. That's what we want in the NFL. Do your 15 minutes or figure out this whole 10-minute deal and do something about it, because it's not working. I'm not liking it. 2 weeks, 2 ties, it's a little bit too much. Maybe we won't see a tie the rest of the year, but I doubt that. Man, I'm thinking we're going to see at least 2 more ties before the year is up, and that's a little bit too rich for my blood. But Vikings, Packers, Aaron Rodgers was iffy the whole week. Devontae Adams was iffy the whole week. They played pretty good. It was a good ball game. I was kind of surprised that the Packers, they were mostly dominant in this game, and the Vikings were able to stick with it, come back, and finish with the tie. So there you have it. It's like what they call kids kissing your sister. That's not right. So they tie. Saints and Browns. Browns, a team that tied last week. Browns don't really care about winning. They'll find a way to not win. They'll find a way to have their kicker mess it up. Did it again. The dude missed, Zane Gonzalez missed 4 straight attempts, whether it was extra points or field goals. And the Saints, man, they got lucky. They got lucky, but they're the home team. They got the win. 1-1 now for the New Orleans Saints, and we'll see if they get back on track. The Browns are who we thought they were, 0-1-1, and that's all I really got to say about that game. They traded away Josh Gordon, so with Gordon, I would give them a chance to do something in some games, but just not anymore. They're going to be the Browns again, who are going to find ways to lose games because that's just the reputation they have, and it's tough to get out of that reputation. Bad teams find ways to lose games, and they did it again yesterday. New Orleans Saints were able to pick up that win in whatever fashion, but they got the win. Texans and Titans, Deshaun Watson, they looked better as a whole offensively when you talk about the passing game, but they just weren't able to get over the hump when we talk about the Tennessee Titans. And the Titans were with Blaine Gabbert, so it's, you kind of wonder if, is it Blaine Gabbert, or are the Texans just not, going through a little bit of growing pains? We bringing our quarterback back into the fold, J.J. Watt back into the fold, and is it going to take a little bit more time? They're 0-2, and when you look at the top of the division, the Jacksonville Jaguars, who we'll talk about in a second, you can't. They have a big game next week. They're at home, and they go against another 0-2 team against the New York Giants. Somebody's got to win. And if you look at it, man, one of these teams goes 0-3. I'm going to talk about the Giants here in a little bit as well. 0-3 is a tough thing to come back from. Depending on what it looks like at the top of those divisions after 3 weeks, you don't want to be 0-3. And I didn't expect these teams to start off 0-2 when you talk about the Texans and the Giants. But just back to the Texans, it was a good sign to see them get the pass game going. Will Fuller was back in the fold, and he had a pretty big game, over 100 yards and a touchdown. DeAndre Hopkins is going to do what he does. He's easily a top 4 or 5 receiver in the game. So maybe it's just little things they got to work out. Maybe it's just them being on the road. The Titans opening up at home, their opening game at home, and Titans were able to hold on and get the win by any means necessary. That's what the Titans looked like yesterday. They just found a way to win that game. Texans, I'm not worried, not yet, because again, it's not like their offense is struggling. You would like to see a little bit more points, but it's a division game. That's what I talk about. When you have these division games, you won't have 20-17 games, 23-20 games, because they know each other so much. So I'm not going to read too much into the loss on the road, but they have to get things going. And Deshaun Watson, again, had a good game. He had 300 yards passing. So Just little things you got to fix. Again, after 2 weeks of football, don't worry about it. 2 weeks of football, doesn't matter who you are. If you still have high aspirations, do not worry about being 0-2. If you're a bad team that hasn't won a game, then this is where you start to worry. You start to doubt. And the Giants are one of those teams that you start to doubt because they were supposed to be fixed with Saquon Barkley, with the offensive line, with the guys that they picked up on the line with Solder and Hernandez. You say, you know what? This team's going to be better. But, they lost last night to the Dallas Cowboys 2013, who Dallas looked horrible week one. And after that long pass, that long touchdown pass to start the game, they were pretty below average offensively. But that's really all they needed. Because the 20-13 final score that the Cowboys had over the Giants, it wasn't even that close. The Cowboys just said, you know what? We just want to end this game. You guys ain't doing nothing. Go ahead, get you a little touchdown at the end, recover the onside kick a field goal. But Eli Manning is just not stepping his game up. He's still playing average football. And that's bad because he's playing average football with the elite players in the skill positions. Saquon Barkley is an elite running back. I don't care what anybody says. Odell Beckham is an elite receiver. That's a fact. Evan Ingram's going to be an elite tight end. There's just no excuse. Eli Manning needs to step his game up because if not, man, you can just cut ties because he's holding this team back. That's what it's looking like after 2 weeks. Eli Manning is holding this team up. And I've always held the quarterback in high regards. But because I always said he never really had all the talent on offense. He has a talent on offense now. No more excuses. They have to get things going. Big win for the Dallas Cowboys, though, being able to open up Jerry's world. Who they haven't been really good when playing in that crazy ass stadium. They were basically a 500 team, but they were able to pull the victory, man. And it's a big victory because it's a division foe. So now you're atop the NFC East, tied with the Eagles, tied with the Redskins, and the Giants. Luckily for the Giants, they're only one game behind these other three teams. But got to get things going. At some point, the Giants got to be like, they got to push the red button and say, whatever we're doing is not working. We need to change something because we have too much talent on offense to be scoring 15 and 13 points respectively, averaging 14 points the first 2 weeks. That's not going to cut it, And it starts at the top. That's Eli Manning. Step your game up, son. It is what it is. Talk to your brother, figure it out. Hey, be like, yo, man, what do I got to do? Hey, you want to play for me a little bit or whatever, play catch, do something, figure it out because it's on you now. It's on Eli Manning. If he was out there and they were losing games 30-35, okay, then you can't say nothing. But that's not the point here. You're just not scoring at all. And I respect the Jaguars defense in week one. I respect the Cowboys defense in week two because that's what I said during the preseason. Cowboys defense is very underrated. I think that's that top 10 defense. In my opinion, and that's what's going to keep them in a lot of these games because their offense is still horrendous. Let's not jump into conclusions here. Ezekiel Elliott still hasn't got going. Dak Prescott after that one pass was just below average, but they got the win. They're 1-1, atop of the division. We'll see how it goes from here. Again, after 2 weeks, too hard to read into what your team is. Let's get a little bit more into the season. Jacksonville Jaguars, man. Oh my goodness. They said, Rob Gronkowski, you're the only thing we're worried about. We're going to shut you down. And they did. 2 receptions, 15 yards for the tight end. And Jacksonville just dominated the game. They ended up getting the victory 31-20. And Blake Bortles was awesome, man. He threw 4 touchdowns in that game. Holy moly. Blake Bortles, if he does that every week, you put them in the Super Bowl right now. Put them in the Super Bowl right now. And with them beating the Patriots, my top 10 that I'm going to have tomorrow, every Tuesday is my top 10 in the NFL power rankings. Oh, yeah, Jacksonville moved up. Yeah, and Patriots fell down from number 1. We have a new number 1, and we have 2 teams that fell out of the top 10, 2 teams jumping into the top 10. So check that out tomorrow. But Jacksonville Jaguars, man, no Leonard Fournette, defense full force, shutting down that pass game, shutting down Rob Gronkowski, and not giving up any of the big plays to the New England Patriots, who were without a couple running backs, who, man, Josh Gordon. Patriots just find ways to say, you know what, we're not going to take it anymore. They lost the game. They got Josh Gordon, so that's going to change things up, especially once Julian Edelman comes back, man. It's just going to work. It is. There's just something about players that have issues in the past. They go to New England and things work. So again, Jacksonville Jaguars. Is it more Patriots are bad or Jacksonville's good? I think Jacksonville defense is incredible. So, man, can that team carry them to the Super Bowl? Almost did it last year. Can they finish it off this year? That remains to be seen, man. But it's going to be interesting to see how they continue to go on into the season. Jacksonville Jaguars, two impressive wins. When you talk about winning in New York and dominating defensively, and then beating the AFC champion New England Patriots in the way you did it. Jacksonville, man, they looking like the best team in the AFC. Arguably, them and the Chiefs, best teams in the AFC so far. Once Leonard Fournette gets back, if Blake Bortles can play like that, man, you got something cooking there. But we got to see a little bit more of it offensively. Defensively, I'm already convinced they're easily, if not the best, top 2 or 3 best defense in the NFL. Hands down, man. You can throw other 2 teams in there, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Other games, Dolphins beat the Jets. Dolphins go to 2-0. They beat the Jets 20-12. And Dolphins defense coming up pretty big in these first 2 games. Tannehill coming along slowly, not making any mistakes. Offense is running the way it should to win games. So Dolphins 2-0. Jets fall to 1-1. Nothing bad going on there. They already have their win. Sam Darnold, there's going to be growing pains. That's just the way it is. But again, Dolphins 20, Jets 12. The Colts dominated the Redskins. The Redskins had no offense. They lose 21-9. Colts 21, Redskins 9. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't do anything. You kicked 3 field goals against the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts looked incredible. I got a low battery, so I got to finish this thing up, man. I don't know why, but that's just the way things go. But Colts 21-9. Last week, the Redskins murdered the Arizona Cardinals 24-6. So how bad are the Cardinals? Well, pretty bad, because the Rams dominated them, which you expected. But 34-0, man, Cardinals got 6 points in 2 weeks. That's uncalled for. It's time to bring in Josh Rosen. Let's be real. Bring in Josh Rosen, call off the Sam Bradford train, rebuild, get you a top 3 pick next year, get you a receiver or something, because you don't have none of that. Put in Josh Rosen. Man, the Rams looking like the best team in football, doing what they have to do, dominating the Raiders in the second half and dominating the game in whole. And then just, again, 2 bad teams, but still doing what you have to do. 34-0 is no joke. It's hard to shut out a team nowadays in football. They were able to do it. 34-0 the Rams, man. Cardinals, oof, that's disgusting. That's horrible. That's horrendous. LA Chargers 31, Buffalo Bills 20. Exactly what I expected the Chargers to do. Bills scored a little bit more than what I thought. Josh Allen, hey, man, I'm going to give you the respect. Keep it going. A little bit better, a little bit better. Josh Allen's doing his thing, but Phillip Rivers, man, played perfect football yesterday. Perfect quarterback, man. Dude had 3 incompletions, 3 or 4 incompletions the whole game. It's the Bills, but still. So Chargers, week 1, was it a fluke or the Chiefs that freaking good? I think the Chiefs are that freaking good. So don't sleep on the Chargers just yet, and don't sleep on the AFC West. Speaking of the AFC West, your Denver Broncos, man, and just an incredible comeback where it should never been this way. Maybe I shouldn't have been counting my chickens like I said. I was like, man, Denver's going to win 30-18. They pulled it off in late heroics, 20-19, and that's 2 weeks in a row where the Raiders falter in the second half. Last week, they were shut out 23-0 in the second half when they went into the half with the lead against the Rams. And then this week, up 12-0 going into the half, the Broncos outscored them 20-7 in the second half. Is it age? Is it just being figured out? Is it safe football being played by John Gruden and Derek Carr, who Derek Carr had an incredible game when you look at just his completion percentage? Man, the dude played incredible. Amari Cooper looked like Montana Rice. That's how it looked like. Luckily, they didn't give up none of the really big plays. It was a lot of, 10, 12-yard gains for Amari Cooper. Yet and still, big game for Amari Cooper. Broncos were able to pull it out. A win is a win. Broncos are now 2-0. They're on top the AFC West with the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to collide here in a couple weeks, man. Still got games week 3, so we'll see what happens there. But Broncos were able to come back 20-19, trying to see what else is here that I didn't talk about. Man, Panthers and Falcons, interesting game. Matt Ryan, 2 touchdowns on the ground. You would think Cam Newton would do that. Falcons, a big win at home. No Devontae Freeman. Tevin Coleman's a better running back. I like Devontae Freeman, but Tevin Coleman is a better running back. Let's be real with that. They were able to get the win at home. Panthers, man, ain't nothing wrong with losing by a touchdown on the road. 31-24. Christian McCaffrey had 88 receptions in this game. They're still not running the ball enough like they said they would with Christian McCaffrey, but he still had 14 receptions, man, for over 100 yards. That's incredible. It was a good game early on. And the NFC South, man, that's a very competitive division. That's a crazy division, man. So very competitive that in my power rankings, I got all 4 teams in my top 12. That's how crazy that is. Find out which ones are in the top 10 tomorrow in the power rankings. Tonight's game, man. Seattle, Chicago, Russell Wilson, Trubisky. 2 defenses, 2 very underrated defenses. We'll see who prevails. Tomorrow on the Fast Break Sports Hour, man, we'll be right back at it to talk about the Monday Night Football, any other news that happened. Obviously, get back into baseball. Things are heating up. Some teams are out. So catch me tomorrow on the Fast Break Sports Hour. Thank you for joining me. I'm Jesse, and I want to play some music, but we're just going to end it like this because I can't sign in for some reason. Thank you for joining me. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and I thank you guys for always being here with me, man. I love it. Fast Break Sports Hour. I'm out.